Hey folks, Taylor here. On today's show, we're going to be doing a few specific predictions for the year to come, as well as some New Year's resolutions as well. Before we get to that, I wanted to let you know that today's show is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every type of live event. Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated and confusing, but there's a better way to buy with SeatGeek. Best of all, our listeners can get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code TSS today. That's promo code TSS for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. We're back. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who nutmegs children until they cry. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello, never. I would never do that. I would nutmeg a kid like once or twice, but then you have to let them win the ball back, otherwise they hate soccer forever.
Shinji Kagawa disagrees.
He certainly does.
So, I don't know if you've seen it. It's a Twitter video.
Yeah.
I know you've seen it.
Yeah.
Listeners, I don't know if you've seen it. Shinji Kagawa is nutmegging. I don't know if it's his kid or someone else's
With
kid.
no regard for human life.
With no regard for human life. Till this kid is actually crying and Kagawa's laughing as he goes back and forth until the kid finally, kicks the ball away and goes running towards the camera in tears.
Well, he was remorseful afterwards.
Not Father of the Year.
Yeah, no, not so much. And was not remorseful at all. That was a joke by me. I think he tweeted, remorse makes you a better player, or disappointment makes you stronger. It's pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. Again, toddler we're talking about here.
So I guess that was Kagawa's sort of winter break training camp.
Apparently.
We'll see how he does in the second half of the Bundesliga season.
I mean, I would say that that's not great preparation for Bundesliga defenders, but maybe like Bundesliga 4.
Speaking of preparation for next year, so we're recording this, a couple of days before New Year's.
This is true.
We are going to do our 2018 very specific predictions. We're going to really sort of put ourselves out there and predict some happenings of 2018. We did this last year.
We did.
And I think, did you listen to the whole show from last year recently?
I did not. I think I got most of the way through. I think we had a couple random ones left. And I would say that while this started, I want to say first of all that while this started as very specific predictions, each year, if you look at the title, it's gotten less specific.
Okay, I've tried to sort of bring us back towards specificity.
But I would say that it's reflected in the fact that I think we did better than ever in that we got a lot of half prediction points across the board.
All right, give me what we got right. And the ones that we got wrong, we'll pretend didn't happen. How about that?
You said the NASL will play in 2017 and will be sanctioned as a Division II league, as will USL. You
Correct,
got that one right. You did.
Yeah.
That might be it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Didn't I say Man United will win the Europa League?
We said that together, actually.
Okay.
I think we stumbled upon that one together. You said Liverpool would win the Premier League.
But
then you had...
I remember this. I said that they'll be fine without Sadio Mane because everyone else is contributing. And as soon as Sadio Mane went to the Africa Cup of Nations, Liverpool's season nosedived.
You also had a very convoluted way of explaining away their defense and goalkeeper situation. That didn't really work out for them either. But you had ones like the CONCACAF Champions League final.
I've got some predictions about one of their new defenders today.
As do I, sort
All
of.
right.
You had the CONCACAF Champions League final will be contested by FC Dallas and the New York Red Bulls. So you're half right. So
it was Pachuca?
And FC Dallas. Yeah, so that's what it was.
FC Dallas didn't make the final.
Excuse me.
They got knocked out on the way by Pachuca.
Yeah, never mind. My bad. So maybe no points there. But little things like Russia will not make it out of their group at the Confederations Cup. That was one of mine.
Was it accurate?
It was accurate.
Yep.
They did not. The Premier League will be somewhat boring at the end of the season, that Chelsea will win, and we have a good idea of who will go down. That was We pretty much nailed that one on dead on. So it was a lot of general, but nothing too exciting. I think the closest thing that made me the happiest was that I said James Rodriguez will pose with a PSG kit because they need to sign a big player to remind everybody that they're a big club.
Yeah.
Wasn't James Rodriguez.
No, they went bigger.
Neymar.
They went bigger and way more expensive.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Twice. They did it twice. Okay, so to 2018.
Yes.
We kind of said 5 each, but we've gone way over.
I have 6. I'm curious what way over means.
You'll find out when I start reading mine.
Oh, boy.
Very specific predictions for 2018, and crucially, why we think they will happen. I will invite you to go first, Taylor Rockwell. What's your first prediction for 2018?
My first prediction for 2018 is that Joe Hart will not start for England in the World Cup after a howler in a friendly.
Oh, that's interesting.
He has, of late, I can't say actually because I haven't watched as much soccer over the Boxing Day period as I probably should have.
I've watched a lot of Match of the Day.
Okay. Yeah. Has he been playing, or has it still been Adrian?
I can't remember.
Either way, I think it's going to continue to be Joe Hart maybe getting some games here and there, but not being West Ham's consistent starter. And I think that
Gareth Southgate will sort of say that that's not good enough at some point.
See, I still think he'll stick with him because it is sort of Joe Hart. You've got a lot of other very talented goalkeepers, but I think Joe Hart is the one that comes most readily to mind, and that's why my prediction is that he'll still stick with him, but then he'll concede a goal where all of the pundits will say, see, if you're not starting regularly, you can't make that save on a free kick, or you don't command the box on a corner. And then it will be sort of like, oh, well, thanks, Joe. We really appreciate it. You'll still be the number 3 goalkeeper, but somebody else is getting that number 1 spot.
You still get a ticket. Just your room's a little smaller. Jordan Pickford gets the big room.
Exactly. Yeah, so what do you think about that? Because I think we've both been sort of
I'd be okay with it.
Really?
Because I think Joe Hart has a lot of really good qualities, but he certainly sort of seems to be on the downward slope of his career at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's surprising, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think...
I feel like the Man City revolution kind of caught up with him and ate him alive.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
That checks out. So I think it wasn't then specific enough just to say he won't start for England. Maybe he will, but I don't think he will, and I think it would be because of a mistake in a friendly.
Okay. I look forward to that friendly. I don't. Speaking of mistakes, Virgil van Dijk, Liverpool's new £75 million defender, which I think makes him a $100 million defender, which I believe makes him the most expensive defender in the whole world ever.
These are facts.
Yeah.
Question mark.
Will have one high-profile mistake early in his Liverpool career where he attempts to dribble out of the back.
Oh, okay. Talk more about that.
So, if you remember, when these bids for Van Dijk came in at the start of the season, I kind of realised, I haven't paid enough attention to this guy. And so I went back and watched a lot of his sort of Southampton highlights. And he really is magnificent. As in, he's a big dude, right? He's 6'4", he wins all kinds of aerial balls. Like, really smart, reading the game, makes tackles. But the thing that really got me the most is how smooth he was coming out of the back with the ball at his feet. He would kind of go past people a couple of times, almost like peak Rio Ferdinand. You know what I mean? Just give a little feint and go past a striker, and sort of the play would evolve from there. So I can see him doing that for Liverpool, but getting caught out, right? So he gets caught out. There'll be a high-profile mistake. The other team scores against Liverpool, especially with how Liverpool kind of spread everybody up the field. So if he makes that mistake, there's really not much behind him except for Mignolet, right?
And I think the key part with your prediction there is that early on, because I could see him coming in and being like, oh, let me show you what I bring to the table, and not fully understanding what's expected.
Right.
And then that happens, and then he gets a lot of this from Jurgen Klopp. Listeners, that's me gesturing mouth.
But it'll also get a lot of attention from the media because this was such a big budget transfer. And it hasn't even gone through yet, right? Nope. It won't go through till January 1st. But there's a lot of sort of eyes on this because it's a lot of money. Like, there's the rumour that even Jurgen Klopp was like, whoa, we're paying how much for a defender? I'm not so sure. And Liverpool had to sort of say, it's fine. You want him, we'll pay it. It's only money. There's all kinds of TV money coming in. So I just think there'll be a lot of pressure on him and a lot of eyes on him. Kind of like when John Stones made mistakes for Man City. People were like, whoa, you paid how much for this dude?
A player that Pep Guardiola now says was at a discount.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We got it for cheap.
So I think Van Dijk will be a magnificent signing long term. I kind of agree with the Liverpool board that money doesn't matter when there's so much TV money coming in. What does it matter if you pay 50 million or 75 million for Van Dijk, right?
Yeah.
If that's a player you want, he's in his mid-20s, he's got a long career as a sort of top-level centre-back ahead of him. I think it's a great time to get him, and if the price is what gets in there, the price is right.
And yes, agreed.
Yeah. So long-term good, short-term weird dribbly thing that people pay attention to.
I'm not gonna lie, I got thrown for a second by you saying the price is right and me frantically trying to scramble for a Bob Barker / Drew Carey joke. Instead, I'll say, but it's also for me, like if you're a NASCAR and you're trying, like if you're a NASCAR team and you're trying to win, and it's like the one thing we don't have is like a powerful carburetor or whatever. I know nothing. But like,
are the cars called NASCARs?
No, I think you have a NASCAR car. I don't know how that works.
NASCAR, it's not that.
I went with something mechanical here, but basically my point is that like if you're
a Lightning McQueen, if you have a Lightning McQueen.
Okay, I haven't watched Cars, but I'll take your word for it. But my point is simply that if there's a piece that you obviously need to allow you to be better,
steering wheel.
There you go. Then you spend the money on that part. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's such an obvious area of need for Liverpool. It makes sense to spend that money.
Okay, yeah.
And with that in mind, I will segue off of that one too.
You can't beat it. That's a great prediction.
It is. And I'm going to say next summer's Premier League previews will be all about City versus Liverpool. That will be the dominant, with maybe a dash of Tottenham thrown in. But I think because City, more about them later on, for me at least, City are probably going to win the title, probably / definitely. But I think if you look at Liverpool, how excited they've been on attack, but how vulnerable on defense. But then you bring in Keita, who we know is already going to be coming in next summer. You bring in Virgil van Dijk now, maybe a goalkeeper, maybe one or two other little parts, and suddenly I think that Liverpool team looks incredibly strong. It's Klopp versus Guardiola. I think a lot of people are going to be really excited to see those two teams go at each other.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be your two favorites next season.
Is that just more evidence that the Premier League is like 4 years behind the Bundesliga? Bundesliga.
A little bit.
Because
bit.
Bundesliga already had this rivalry back in the day, right?
Yes, they did.
And in the Champions League final at some point.
Well, I think it's worth noting there that like every rivalry that's already happened from a major coaching standpoint now exists in the Premier League because all the coaches have come to the Premier League. So that's the way it works.
We're just Mourinho looking in from the outside.
Yeah.
Right. My next one. Here's my very specific prediction. It's a World Cup one because 2018 is the year of the World Cup. There will be a Russia World Cup hosting infrastructure embarrassment.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Sochi?
Oh, I remember Sochi.
The Winter Games. Do you remember the sort of half-built hotels with people checking into rooms that weren't finished, sort of toilets that didn't flush, brown water coming out of the taps, all that stuff?
Like doors that weren't doors. I remember that one.
Doors that weren't doors.
Yeah.
The two toilets next to each other. That was
lovely.
clearly a mistake.
Yeah.
That would cost $50 billion, right? And this is part of the problem I see is that I'm going to generalize a little bit, but it seems to me that Russia is very much a kleptocracy, and when big projects happen, there's more than a dash of corruption and money mislaid and jobs not done properly. And I think that's going to happen at a World Cup level because 12 stadia, 5 of them brand new. Right? One of them's like upgraded, one of them's been rebuilt from scratch. So it's like 7 projects altogether. We've already got. I wrote this down. We've already got the thing.
I really hope that's actually how like the Russian officials pitched it. Like 7 projects altogether. We think. We're not sure. Does that one need work too?
So 5 new, 1 upgrade, and 1 sort of like knock it down and build it up again, which is essentially a new one. Remember the Ekaterinburg Stadium where they had to put in the bleachers that were kind of outside the stadium? So that thing's already happened.
That also like weren't safe at all, as I recall?
They looked really... I mean, they'll probably be okay, but they look terrible, right?
Again, not something you want to be saying heading into a major international tournament. They'll probably be fine.
And before you think this is just me like judging Russia from afar, I've also want to bring up the name Vitaly Mutko.
Okay. Right?
So you either know that name or you don't. If you don't, here's who he is. He was the chairman of Russia's World Cup bid and they're organising the World Cup committee. He just was forced to step down, not least because, I'm talking like a few days ago, earlier in December, the International Olympic Committee banned him for life from being involved in Olympic events. Because the Russian Olympic Federation or Russian Olympic Committee has been banned from the 2018 Winter Olympics and possibly more Olympics beyond because of a state-sponsored doping conspiracy, basically, that as the sort of head of Russia's Olympics committee, Mutko definitely had to know about. And if you don't know about Mutko, he also is the Russian Federation Union president. He is a friend of Vladimir Putin's going back to the 90s. So if you believe in Russian kleptocracy, which you absolutely should do, there's very heavy evidence for it. Sochi should not have cost $50 billion, for example. Then you've got to believe that Mutko is in on it and that a lot of what's happened with Russian infrastructure, there's definitely been money wasted and money pocketed, and the results will be there in the summer of 2018.
And we actually reached out to FIFA to hear their thoughts on this, but it was really difficult to understand what they said from their head being jammed directly into the sand. So we're not really sure what they make of that.
Well,
but
speaking of head in the sand, right? Remember from Sochi, a lot of the evidence we got of the bad hotels and infrastructure was from journalists who were there who were just like tweeting their photos, right? I feel like the same thing's going to happen for the World Cup. You're going to get the evidence of things not being quite up to par from journalists who are there. But I'll guarantee, and I'll call them out, I'll bet Fox Sports, for example, when they're screening the World Cup, they want to present the majesty of the World Cup. And it's you're kind of inclined to be, look at this majestic tournament, not like, here's a feature on the dodgy thing that's happening at this stadium. So I think the TV networks broadcasting it won't highlight it, but it'll be on individual journalists to do so.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because I think what they'll want to do is show the pretty onion domes and like the figure skaters, and they'll want to focus on all of the stereotypical Russian things that you think of, and they won't so much want to focus on the, hey, we're trying to cover this game, but there's no place for a TV camera.
Yeah, I'll bet you there's some like media type situations that are not good enough.
And I do want to add that like we've both watched The Sopranos. Like when you're like siphoning money off of a building job, you just siphon the money off, but you still build the building. You don't like put 2 toilets in a bathroom and be like, yeah, sure, that passes muster. Like that's obvious. Be subtle with it is all I'm saying.
I mean, maybe they raised it. Maybe they're just like, Winter Olympics, whatever, World Cup. The whole world's really watching. We should do this better. But I guarantee there'll be something.
Oh yeah.
I've just gone from very specific prediction to guarantee. heavily emphasized.
That's fine. And I'll, again, piggyback off of that one because one of mine connects to that, which is basically that I think there will be little to no fan violence at the 2018 World Cup, but there will be lots of shadiness. I have no idea who will win, and that's part of why I'm making this prediction is because I don't feel confident enough to say, definitely going to be Germany repeating, or, I just think that'd be kind of fake. But I do think that
Argentina is the correct answer.
Incorrect. But I do think that there's going to be some of the shadiness you've talked about. I think there's probably going to be a decision or two that maybe people question going Russia's way. Whether or not that's genuine, I just think that's going to be a talking point because of all the background information you've been talking about. But to the fan violence thing, I watched a Vice video, I think it was, with 3 of the organizers of the fans in Marseille, the Russian, not fans. I'm not going to call them
Euro
fans.
2016. Yeah.
And it was an English journalist, I think, or American journalist asking, do you think that's going to be the case? And they all basically made it very clear that no, and they had been told, don't do that or else.
That's interesting.
And I think it's because Russia don't want that to seem like this is what happens if you come here. So I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of arrests and a lot of detentions of
domestic hooligans.
Yes, exactly, before the World Cup kicks off.
And this thought has just come to me though. Obviously, we've been saying very bad things about the Russian government, which I think is fair because they're kind of stealing from their own people. Saying
I'm looking around the room right now.
I think there might be a recording device in front of you. Don't move.
Oh, yeah. That would be the place to look, huh?
Bad things about Russian hooligans.
I genuinely forgot I was talking to a microphone.
It's worth remembering. That I'm sure there are sort of millions and millions and millions of really good Russian people who are just excited to have the World Cup in their country.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
People like people. That's the basis for it.
You can be against the Russian government and the infrastructure and how it's happened, but I hope the Russian people enjoy the World Cup.
Yeah, right. I agree with you.
That's my weird apology I felt like I had to put in there.
No, it's fine. I think I asked my friend this way back when I did the show, I think when you were out of town, about the Iranian, the Green Revolution and the players who supported it. I asked my friend, what do the Iranian people think of the United States? And his point was people like people. People want to believe in the good of other people. So the people in Iran like the people of the United States. They might not like the government. And I think that's the same thing with Russia, that I might have certain beefs with Vladimir Putin, most of which I would not be comfortable discussing because I think he could murder me with his hands.
He doesn't have beefs with you, though, because he doesn't know who you are.
This is correct.
If he did.
I'm fighting the urge to make a Street Fighter reference here, and I will leave it at that because it will not resonate. But I'll just say, yes, I hope the Russian people have a wonderful time, but I hope that we do hear about maybe some of that backroom weirdness that I'm sure will take place.
Speaking of the World Cup, I predict Harry Kane will be top scorer at the World Cup, and as a sort of parallel thing, England will finally stop being an international laughingstock.
Okay.
So they won't win the World Cup, but they might sort of make the quarterfinals or semi-finals, playing some soccer that at least has people interested in England and not laughing at them anymore.
Yeah.
And the reason I think this is, and I'll back this up by saying, I'm pretty sure I've made a similar prediction before every tournament that we've covered, which is that finally this will be England's turn. So first of all, law of averages, it's got to happen eventually. Second of all, I've been watching Tottenham and just watching the number of times Dele Alli slips a pass through for Harry Kane to run onto, or plays one of those nice, quick, sharp, square passes across the 6-yard box for Harry Kane to finish. I really think England might be onto a thing where you've got a sort of pre-existing partnership that you take to the international stage and then take to the World Cup. A lot of this is sort of about Dele Alli for me. Do you remember I was all excited because England sometimes looks static, but Dele Alli is always buzzing about, running about, making space. I think we're in for England not being a massive disappointment. Top of that, England have got a group with Tunisia and Panama. That is a chance for Harry Kane to score some goals. With all due respect to those teams, that is a chance for Harry Kane to score some goals and end up as World Cup top scorer.
You said something similar about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang at the African Cup of Nations.
I did.
For your 2017 predictions,
they can't
and also Josie Altidore for your World Cup qualifying.
Also, another reason I know this is we have a really nice iTunes review from Sir Harry Kane. It published, I think, yesterday. So I'm assuming that's Harry Kane from the future.
I don't see why it wouldn't be.
And he's been knighted for being World Cup top scorer. And he's come back and thanked us for it with a review. So thank you, Sir Harry.
All right. I like his time-traveling priorities.
That's how he scores all those goals. He knows where to be.
That makes sense.
He just Groundhog Days it until he scores a hat-trick.
I often thought about having that ability and how wonderful it would be. Because you could be the most out-of-shape soccer player in the country, in the world, and yet still be he always finds a way to score.
And weirdly, last week he didn't know how to play piano. This week he knows how to play piano.
There we go. Yeah. There we go. And carve ice sculptures, I believe. But so I actually had a kind of a similar thought, but I think in our last two specific predictions shows, I've focused on, like, I think England are going to make it to the semis. Doesn't really work that well. But it is interesting, like, you go through, and there aren't that many weak links. There aren't obvious areas of, like, I don't know how you figure that out, or I don't know what Southgate's going to do there. Really, the only one that I could come up with was goalkeeper, and that's kind of how I landed on that Joe Hart prediction. Because I'm with you. I think
it's going to be a tournament of Pickford sidewinders.
Yeah, sure. I like that. And I think it's also going to be a tournament where you see more people than normal supporting England, because I think with no United States there,
that's interesting.
I think you're going to
you for one, right?
But yeah, me for one. Like, I will definitely be rooting wholeheartedly for England, since I don't have to go 80% US or 90% US, 10% England this time around.
Well, we got squeezed out fast there.
Yeah, you did.
What else you got, Taylor?
I have several other ones, but first, do you think we should have a word from our sponsor?
I do. Today's show is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, this is the final SeatGeek ad of 2017. They've been wonderful sponsors for us this year. Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated and confusing, but there's a better way to buy, and it's with SeatGeek. 2 taps on your phone and you can buy a ticket.
You can buy a ticket. You can buy a ticket for loved ones. Maybe if you didn't get the right Christmas gift this year, you can still make up for it by checking SeatGeek, seeing what's on there.
Yeah.
If, for
maybe
example,
you could Harry Kane / Bill Murray it, and if you got the wrong Christmas gift, you could go back in time and use SeatGeek to find a good Christmas gift.
Okay. We're still on time travel.
Yeah.
That's if you got the wrong gift.
Sticking with it.
Rather than make it up right now, it's invent time travel, go back in time.
Yeah.
Got it. Maybe that's the reason why you're stuck in the time loop, is because you got the wrong gift.
Could be.
But say you have a friend or loved one or whatever who wants to watch an MLS game, but instead you got them tickets to a baseball game. Well, that just won't do. So you could go online. There are tickets available right now for MLS openers. I know that because I went and looked for DC United tickets, forgetting that I think they don't play a home game until 2026.
Isn't it the stadium's being finished up and they'll play at buzzard point whenever that's finished?
Finished up is a loose term? But yes. So I don't know where they're going to play. It's going to be
away is what they're going to do.
Yeah, they're going to be away, but I think they'll have to do some home games. We'll see what happens there. Otherwise, they're going to be playing, I think, the entire first half of the stadium or the season on the road, second half at home. I don't know if that will work.
So did you not find DC United tickets on SeatGeek?
I found tickets to see DC United play Orlando on March 3rd and Atlanta in Atlanta on March 11th.
They'll both be nice and warm.
There you go.
So how did that work on SeatGeek? Did you sort of get the green, orange, and red?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I got that. I got different options, and I got the different dates, obviously, just by searching DC United. But you can also search Major League Soccer or your individual team or any other number of live events, from concerts to sporting venues to comedy shows as well.
So if you would like to get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase, you download the SeatGeek app. That's the crucial step you have to take. Then you hit the settings tab. Then you enter the promo code TSS to get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's episode.
Alrighty, so with that said, thank you to SeatGeek. Back to my predictions. This one, it's a little vague because I don't really know how to structure it. So I'm going to say Christian Pulisic will move in 2018. I think he will get a move.
Like run up and down?
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't been doing enough of that. No, I think he'll get a transfer to another club. I don't know if that will be January or the summer. I don't know. I'm inclined to say yes only because I can't remember where I was reading this, if it was on Twitter or in an article, so I apologize. But one of the points was in that article he wrote, theoretically, for
Players Tribune?
Yes. That it was all about how much he prioritizes winning and cares about winning. That hasn't really happened a lot at Dortmund. Maybe this was Grant Wall, I think, who wrote this. And so it's Dortmund have kind of been in a skid. You do wonder if maybe he's reached that point where it's look, maybe this is never going to be a team where I end up winning the Bundesliga, so maybe he does kind of look at larger clubs out there as an opportunity.
So I disagree that he'll try and move. I think he'll sort of be wanting to be part of the new sort of Dortmund, like Peter Stöger. He's starting me. We're playing this kind of cool 4-3-3/4-1-4-1, and I'm a regular starter, and he's been playing really well from what I've seen. I think he'll still be happy to be a starting member of that Dortmund team for at least another season.
Yeah, I didn't say he's going to agitate for a move.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I was going to say, at the same time, there will be clubs circling, being Dortmund aren't in the Champions League spots for next year. I think we could pick this guy up. Because that means Dortmund will be missing some money, right?
And so the clubs, I know there was a lot of links moving him to Man United. I don't think that will happen, nor do I want that to happen.
Why is that Man United rumour appeared?
I don't know. Other than that, I think anytime there's a big player who's going to demand a big transfer fee. It seems like Manchester United get linked. I think
is it to do with Mourinho saying I need 300 million just to survive in this town?
That's probably it. Oh, God, that quote drives me insane. Jamie Carragher's analysis of that situation is dead on.
What did he say?
Basically, just pointing out that like if you look at some of the positions Man United have, like, do you really, if you had to choose, would you choose Ederson or David De Gea? Would you choose like Manchester United centre back options or City's? Would you choose Fernandinho or Nemanja Matic? Like there are definitely there's disparity there that Pep Guardiola has found a way to blend into his squad that Jose Mourinho has not.
I would say arguably the weakest part of Man United is out wide, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I think a big part of that...
So Pulisic might be an upgrade on, say, Jesse Lingard.
I mean, you're not wrong. Well, Jesse Lingard, I think, has come central and has been the goal-scoring machine of late.
That's
so
true.
Who knows about that? But I think that is because he's trying to put people who maybe aren't wingers out there to see what they can do. But I also don't know if Pulisic is going to fit what Mourinho wants, because it's more about like they need somebody who can like put a ball in Lukaku's head or really pick out a
That's
cross.
True. You don't see Pulisic crossing from deep like he's David Beckham or something, right?
I don't. I would love that move because I would
then
like
all your joys would be in one place.
But I think I would actually really hate that move because every game that he was sitting on the bench and not playing, I would feel sad myself, but also like, no, don't be the club that ruins him. Don't be the club that Kagawa and
Mkhitaryan. So the last two Dortmund attacking midfielders / wingers that United have signed, they've kind of ruined.
I just don't want that pressure, man. I don't want that pressure. So that's part of it. So I do think he'll move, and I think it will probably be to Liverpool. But I think
Coutinho out, Pulisic in.
I think the smarter move, as crazy as it sounds, would be for him to go to Barcelona. I really do.
What?
I really do. Because you think about it for a second, the reason why Liverpool would want him is as a replacement for Coutinho, who Barcelona are well aware is going to cost however many millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Pulisic is going to be Liverpool's replacement for him, or could be that replacement. I think you bring him in as a young player who's exciting, who maybe won't agitate for minutes right away because it's Barcelona.
But then it's a bad move for him, right? Then he just should have stayed at Dortmund.
But I also don't think Ousmane Dembele is that far ahead of him, especially with the injuries. And so suddenly he could come in, challenge for those minutes, play on the wing, but maybe play in midfield when they need him to. And I think it's also kind of like the PSG prediction I made, like maybe Barcelona need to remind everybody that they can bring in young, exciting players and not have it be a protracted drama that ends in like a legal dispute. So I would like to see that. I feel like there's going to be more rumors of him going to Madrid or Barcelona before a move actually happens.
Do you see maybe a Pulisic move happening under cover of World Cup? As in, like, there's all the interest in the World Cup, and a lot of transfers kind of get put on hold, right? Because the best players in the world are all sort of at the tournament, and theoretically, at least, should be busy not signing for new teams, but focused on the World Cup. Whereas Americans obviously not going. There'll be a lot of like Pulisic will be available to talk to people. Essentially,
I think so. And I think the other thing that you could see, maybe possibly, is if he is signed before the World Cup starts, then it almost certainly means he's signed for Bayern Munich. Because they always get their business done early because they want to beat people to market. That has been rumoured,
hasn't it? I don't know if that's just like, who are Dortmund's good players, let's write a story linking Bayern with them.
Yes.
Just because past is precedent.
Yeah, I think so.
The sun will rise tomorrow and Bayern will sign Dortmund's best players.
Yes. So that's one. But I think I want to go back to the Liverpool thing, though, just for a moment to say, though, that like I'm still sort
Chrissy
of...
P at LFC?
But I'm still nervous about that just because Liverpool also have, as we've already talked about earlier, so many attacking options. And if Coutinho doesn't get sold, I don't see Pulisic necessarily starting regularly over any of their attacking options they already have. Or at the very least, he's going to be competing and kind of being a rotational player. That's great that it's for, I would argue that that's a higher standard on a regular basis. But I don't know if it's great if he's not starting every single game. It's the age-old conundrum of, like, Dortmund is kind of the perfect spot for him.
So stay there a couple of years.
I think he probably should and see what happens, but I also think there's a chance that somebody's going to come in with just too much money, and that's the end of that.
All right. Well, speaking of someone who made a big move from a big team to another big team, Raheem Sterling, I predict, will score the goal that wins the Premier League for Manchester City in March.
There it is. I was like, you mean like when it already happened a couple games ago?
No, he will score the goal that is the goal that wins the Premier League. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he keeps scoring these sort of match-winning goals. So it just stands to reason that at some point he will score the match-winning goal that will be sort of, that's when it put them out of reach of everybody else. Right?
Yeah, he had a great quote today that I loved.
Raheem?
Yeah, it was to paraphrase.
Sir Raheem, let's call him that.
Oh, he hasn't been knighted yet. We don't know if he can go back in time. We don't know if Harry's given him that technology.
I'll check our iTunes reviews.
All right. It was paraphrasing something like, I'm having my best season I've ever had. I'm scoring more goals than I ever have. Like, I may not have completed as many dribbles as I did in seasons past, but that's because like if you're dribbling too much, then it doesn't mean you're helping the team.
All right.
That is all very Pep Guardiola, number one.
Yep.
But number two, I mean, it's indicative of the season he's having where he can't stop scoring and can't stop being this lights-out player that people are now genuinely terrified to play against.
Yep, especially as the minute ticks past 80.
Yep.
Then suddenly he's on.
But I mean, but going back to the other prediction about England, like that's another one who
Raheem.
I do think that England are going to benefit from Pep Guardiola's influence.
Yeah, Kyle Walker too.
That's a guy. Yeah, I mean Fabian Delph obviously isn't. It's so there are those players in there, and then bringing in youngsters like Phil Foden. It is sort of like these guys who were good. Don't get me wrong, and like had moments of brilliance for England are now suddenly like players to be feared on the international stage, and that can't hurt England's confidence heading into the World Cup.
So I agree with that. I want to dig deeper into my Sterling prediction.
Sure.
Okay, so the season this year ends May 13th, 1 week earlier than last year because the World Cup is coming, right? Things get pushed back a bit. They're so far ahead right now that's why I really think this will be done in March. It also feels very Pep to win the league in March, right? So March 10th...
I have another piggyback is why I'm not really...
Let me finish this out.
Yeah, go ahead.
March 10th, they're away to Stoke City. Can you imagine Pep Guardiola, after all the English things of like a cold night in Stoke and all that, if you win the league away to Stoke and it was windy that day? It's kind of poetically perfect, right?
It's going to be even weirder when they sign Messi in January. He has the assist for Raheem Sterling
just to prove a point.
On a cold, windy night in Stoke.
We get that game moved to Wednesday. March 17th, they're home to Brighton. That could happen there. March 31st, away to Everton. That's where I think it'll happen. Really? I think a Sterling goal away to Everton to win the league. If not, then April 7th, home to Manchester United. I kind of feel like there'll be some drama building up to that April 7th game, but then it will get decided the week before and everyone will be like, oh, why are we even going to watch that?
No, I'm with you.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Because I can see that story of like, if they don't win here, then it's a rough road ahead, and then they're struggling against Everton, and it's like, oh, this is it. This is where they slip, and then he scores in the 87th minute, and that's that. Yep.
And then everyone who was ready for that United City game is like, ah.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
What else is on that day?
Speaking of that, just to make this...
Oh, sorry. If that happens... You realise if that happens, and I'm correct, and Sterling scores the winner away to Everton March 31st, then City will be presented with the trophy and receive the Guard of Honour at Old Trafford on April 7th. Just saying.
Not great.
Not a great thing.
Not great.
Well, it depends.
Are you sure it's at Old Trafford? I thought they already played at Old Trafford.
Oh, sorry, home to Man United. I've got my...
Yeah.
Point. Okay, so either way, though, at the Etihad with Man United.
I would say it's worse to do it at Old Trafford. But yeah, still, I did not realize that, and thanks for that, because the more painful one for me, aside from saying that Christian Pulisic should probably go to Liverpool, is saying that I think Manchester City will knock out Manchester United in the Champions League en route to winning the treble. That's what I think.
Wow.
Because my initial prediction was going to be that City will win the league, but it won't be by as wide of a margin as we're seeing right now. And that would be because they're going to focus. It's kind of what happened with Bayern Munich near the end of their season, that like they let off the gas a little bit. They focused on other competitions. This is when Pep Guardiola was in charge. And so that gap tightened up a little bit. Never to the point where it was like, oh, like suddenly it's 2 points. But I thought it would be closer. But then this team from Pep Guardiola has shown no signs of letting up at all, and also have so many players that seem to have bought into the system that you can take half of them out and put 5 new players in. They still get the result. So I think they can still be very competitive across 3 fronts. And I just have a feeling like the embarrassment is not over for Jose Mourinho this season. And I think having 2 games to really game plan, because that's kind of the narrative with Jose.
Is it like he made a deal with the devil to not finish in the top 4 but win the Europa League and get in the Champions League? And the devil was like, all right, we can do that this season, but next season I own your soul, right?
Yes. but like, and even so, like,
I'm not even going to teach you how to play guitar.
I saw a tweet today of somebody being like, for having such a bad reputation, the devil does honor his agreements. Like, he teaches you to play guitar. But
it's all about the fine print, though.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that like this season has been another kind of humbling one for Jose Mourinho, at least at time of recording, where it is a lot about how he isn't getting that many results, how he needs more money, how things aren't going his way, blah, 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 blah. And the other narrative that we've heard about him consistently is that he, over 2 legs, no one can beat Jose Mourinho, that he always finds a way to figure out the opponent, even though that...
Is that why he's always won the Champions League?
Yeah, I know. But so I just think that would be the ultimate, is for him to like be playing Man City in the semifinal of the Champions League and kind of get trounced in both of them. I feel like that's a possibility.
So
Man United fans.
We've gone Premier League heavy here. I've got a Champions League prediction, which doesn't redeem us, because it's that an English team will win the Champions League.
You think?
Yeah. An English team will win the Champions League.
I've got a series of US predictions rolled into one next.
Well, I'm thinking there'll be La Liga and Serie A and Bundesliga fans and Liga 1 fans who are not thrilled.
Hey man, I tried to send Christian Pulisic to Barcelona. You said no.
I think purely because there are 5 English teams in the round of 16, and one of them is Man City, there's a really good chance that an English team wins the Champions League.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense to me. I mean, I've got City winning the treble, so I agree.
There you go. What else you got?
I've got that U.S. soccer will continue to U.S. soccer. And
Oh, dear.
This is a very bleak one, I apologize.
I'm going to assume that means good things?
No, it does not. It basically means that when I was looking at all of the possible situations to make predictions about, I think it's all kind of going to go the way we think it's going to go. And for some people, that's going to be disastrous. And for some people, that's just going to be like, really? Because I think...
Yeah, what are the various things?
I think U.S. soccer president is either going to be Carlos Cordero or Kathy Carter. I think that
that's the two businessy candidates, essentially,
and
right? That's the current vice president and the formerly current president of Soccer United Marketing. She stepped down for the election.
Yes.
Early February, the election.
But I think it's going to be one of the more predictable establishment candidates is going to win. I think that when the...
Why do you think that?
Really, it's just a lot of the kind of like way it's being covered lately is there's a lot of stuff about Don Garber and Sunil Gulati throwing their support behind her, which on the one hand is kind of weird because it's Soccer United Marketing and that connection. But on the other, I mean, if you're not running, then you throw your support behind a candidate. It's what you do.
The only weird part is that it seems, but from all reporting, including Grant Wiles' really good reporting, where he has quotes of someone saying that's what's happening, they're denying that they're doing that. That's the weird part to me.
Yeah.
If Garber and Gulati were saying, yeah, this is my favourite candidate, that would at least be transparent and fair. But to do it and then say that that's not happening, that's some like George Orwell stuff.
It is,
and we didn't qualify for the World Cup in 1994. I'll have you remember.
First of all, that's outstanding. Second of all, but I think it also genuinely might be because those two gentlemen aren't particularly popular right now, and I think there's an element that if suddenly
they're helping her by not declaring it.
Kinda. That if you're a neutral fan, if you are, and this relates to like I think that whoever is named U.S. soccer coach will not be. I think there's going to be a lot of people upset no matter who that coach is. And I think it's because if you are sort of a passive U.S. soccer fan, you might know right now Sunil Gulati is at fault for not getting us to the World Cup. So if you read Sunil Gulati endorses this candidate, you're going to be like, well, I do not like that candidate anymore. And so I think he can, like, whereas people on the board, people in voting positions know, well, he did do this, he did do that, he's helped us here. He knows what he's doing. I'll back his candidate. They can kind of make that step behind closed doors. That would be my guess. But I think at the end of the day, that's not going to excite fans. Nor do I think is the national team appointment. Because I think really, no matter what, there's going to be a group that's upset by it.
You want to read the bottom printed prediction from my piece of
Tab
paper?
Ramos will be the next USMNT coach.
Yep. I really think that's what's going to happen after the election. Probably in time for the March friendly, Tab Ramos will be appointed U.S. men's national team coach.
Yeah, and I thought a lot about this in the lead up to this prediction, and my guess is that he was supposed to be named interim with the idea that once everything kind of is sorted out,
causing U.S. soccer to pull out a thesaurus to give Dave Sarachan various titles.
Exactly. Eesh.
Sorry, I cut you off.
But there's no way that was supposed to be the situation. There's no way that Dave Sarachan was supposed to be in charge in January. I think it was supposed to be Tab Ramos either are in a permanent role come January 1st or still interim. Oh, January camp went well. Everybody's really happy. Lots of puff pieces about how great it was, and then he gets the permanent spot. But I think with that, I think you and I would be okay with that. Would you be happy with that?
Yeah, so I have a theory. It's not my theory. I heard this on the On the Continent podcast, right? As well. Luke Moore, Andy Brassel, James Horncastle. They focus on
Marcus Speller,
European soccer. Oh, is Marcus Speller? Oh, yeah, of course, he hosts kind of. Right, okay, not kind of. He actually does.
Yeah.
They had this theory that the future of international management
also, hi Luke, if you're listening,
could be a lot of under 21 and lower age group coaches taking the full-time national team job, right? Gareth Southgate being an example of being the U21 coach. If he succeeds with England at the World Cup, then that's a sort of promotion from within the ranks that succeeds for a team that doesn't normally succeed.
Yeah.
The Spanish coach, Lopetegui, I might be pronouncing it. Lopetegui, he was the U21 coach who knows all the current crop of players. That could be a thing that is successful at the next World Cup. This was the On the Continent theory. And I really think you may see evidence of this is the way to go. Because one, you don't have to pay those people as much as if you hired a Jose Mourinho or a Jurgen Klinsmann type figure. But also, if you want to get the best and relationship between a coach and a bunch of famous players, then the coach who saw them through their early years when they weren't quite so famous and he guided them a little bit, that's a great person to have in charge because he has their trust. He's like a father figure, which isn't necessarily true when you bring in some random national team coach.
This is true.
So Tab Ramos' example, he's the U20 coach for all those guys, right? Like McKennie and why am I struggling to think of U20 names? Everybody who played at the last 2 U20 World Cups has played under Tab Ramos, right? Cameron Carter-Vickers, Matt Miazga.
You don't have to redeem yourself. We know you know people. That's fine.
Josh Sargent. Mm-hmm. So then all those guys are then under Ramos. Yep. It's a great situation for the next few years.
Right. And yet I don't think it's that exciting of a name for a lot of people.
I don't care.
Well, that's fine that you don't, but this is my point.
I was about to argue with you.
I know. I just think it's like it's not that exciting of a name, but I think part of that is also that I don't think there are that there's no really exciting name. Like Yogi Löw is not going to leave Germany to come manage the U.S. national team. Mm-hmm. Pep Guardiola is not going to leave Man City. Like there aren't that many proven candidates. Mm-hmm. Then the ones that you look at that might take it, there's a lot of. Do I want Marcelo Lippi? No, probably not. Do I want Juan Carlos Osorio? No, I don't think I do.
And he wants Colombia.
And there's issues there, but I think at the end of the day, it's just, even if it is Tab Ramos, I see the positives in it, but I think I can't help but believe that it was supposed to be a Bob Bradley situation where he had the interim tag and oh, wait a minute, he's getting results. He seems to be bringing people together. This guy should take over the job because right now I think U.S. Soccer...
So why wasn't it that?
Because I think he probably didn't want the interim tag, and I think they were like, "Can you hold on for a little while?" Yeah, I think so. I think he's seen the way that goes.
Maybe he's thinking, "I'll see how this election shakes out, and then we'll see if I can take it then."
Yeah, and I think also, keep in mind the stories we've heard about Gulati talking to Bob Bradley and be like, "You're our guy," but then going and meeting with Jurgen Klinsmann, and there's also that idea that you're the interim guy.
Those aren't so much stories as sequences of events.
True, but you get my point, right? That it's like you're the interim guy, you're definitely going to be the permanent manager unless Jose Mourinho says yes, and so but I just think that Tab Ramos isn't going to be exciting enough of a name to get the masses totally behind U.S. Soccer again. Yeah. So I think it'll be a good coaching appointment, but I think it won't inspire that much confidence. Meanwhile, I really hesitate to say this because I know it's going to upset a lot of people, but I think the writing is on the wall. I think Major League Soccer is going to let Columbus move. And I think, again, that's what I mean when I say U.S. Soccer is going to U.S. Soccer, is that if you want to be perceived as
U.S. Soccer doesn't have a role in that, right? It's Major League Soccer.
I guess that's true. I think but U.S. Soccer, generally speaking, not the federation. But
American
just more
soccer?
So, yeah, American soccer is the better way to put that. I just think, I've had a lot of sympathy for Columbus, and I still do. And it's just this feeling that I keep going back to of more than Columbus, it's about right now, Major League Soccer, yes, teams have moved or contracted. Yes, there have been those issues, but it's been kind of forced upon the league. And it still hasn't been, they're moving to this city, they're moving to this city. Oh, yeah, they're changing. Oh, they have a new, it just hasn't been the way it has been with a lot of other American sports. And so the reaction now has been the way it was when Wimbledon moved and became MK Dons, and everybody was like, this is a travesty. Mm-hmm. And I just had this...
And worth reminding everybody, when that happened, the Football League said no twice, and it was overturned on appeal to a board, right? The Football League fought really hard against that move, as opposed to Major League Soccer, who seemed to be behind letting it happen.
Yeah, and so I think that's it, is that once you do that, I do not like the slippery slope argument, but it's not even a slippery slope, it's just a slope. Once you allow that to happen, it can happen anywhere, and you take away that sort of fundamental idea, in my mind at least. It kills the league a little bit for me. And so
I'm not willing to predict that that's going to happen because I don't want to add any momentum, and I kind of believe Morgan Hughes was all about fight to the death. We are not letting this happen, this team is staying, and I say keep believing that and keep making that happen.
I firmly agree and believe in that too. It's just I just have that feeling that the way American soccer is right now, it feels a little gray to me. And I apologize for being depressing here, but that's the way it feels. And I feel like that extends to what's happened with Sacramento, and probably it seems like not getting the expansion franchise. It seems like it will be Cincinnati.
Do you think the Cincinnati thing is tied to the Columbus thing?
A little bit.
I kind of feel like they're trying to angle it so that they announce that the crew are leaving, but don't worry, Cincinnati are coming.
Yeah.
As if that was some trade-off of just having a team in Ohio is good enough for Columbus fans, which is, isn't Cincinnati really close to Kentucky? It's quite far from Columbus, right? Yeah. It's 100 and something miles.
No, and I think, I do think that was the initial idea, and it really feels like that sort of half, it'll be fine, we'll just do that, they'll be cool with it. And then slowly realized that wasn't going to be the case, and I do think that's part of the reason why there's been the delay in announcing it, is that they don't really know what to do, and I think if nothing else...
keep the pressure up to make them make the right decision.
Yeah, because I think they genuinely thought, Columbus will be moved. That will be announced and dealt with. Then we have the freedom to announce, like, Cincinnati's going to be a Major League Soccer team. In Ohio, you're still good. And now they're realizing, well, that won't work. They're going to be mad. Oh, no, we're in trouble, and they haven't quite figured it out. But I wanted to say, though, that I still think that some of the stuff you started to see about, Sacramento didn't have as deep as pockets as they thought. There are some problems with the ownership. It really has been, now the way I've seen it written is like there were questions about the feasibility of the ownership group. Like that is a new narrative that I have not seen previously that makes me feel like it's Major League Soccer just kind of planting some seeds of like, well, we're just trying to preserve, the sanctity of the league. We don't want to have any situations where bad ownership leads to bad decisions. Meanwhile, you have an owner trying to move a club like from this like a group of supporters that are fighting tooth and nail. It just seems very kind of meh at the end. It's more than meh. It seems very depressing to me.
Okay, final thing on the US soccer thing. Yeah. I'm trying to maybe try and turn this around and make you more optimistic. There is an idea that sort of there's the establishment candidates for US soccer president, which are Kathy Carter and Carlos Cordero, who you mentioned at the top of this prediction. What if they split the establishment vote, which makes room for an Eric Ronaldo or a Kyle Martino? That could I genuinely don't have a prediction for the presidential election because we can't really read what's happening, right? Because we don't know how people are going to vote. So I just can't make a prediction. You kind of just got to like hold on to your seat and see what happens. But I do see that it's not a foregone conclusion that it's going to be one of those two. They could work against each other.
Yeah. I mean, not to continue to go negative, but
you're about to.
I think I'd be pretty hypocritical if I didn't bring this up, so I will. We had Eric Ronaldo on the show. I like talking with Eric. We've had him on previously. He seems like a nice guy. It's worth noting.
He quoted The Princess Bride.
He did. It's worth noting that we don't know who's backing him, and we don't know who's supporting him. And it seems like there's some photos recently of him and Ricardo Silva. There's been some rumors about
can we fill that a bit? They're in Dubai. The photos are in Dubai, and it was for the I think it's called the Globe Soccer Awards, which is put on by a players agents, an agents association, and the big European clubs host this weird awards in Dubai.
It's basically whoever will show up to show that Dubai has authority. Yeah.
But wasn't there a thing after that where someone spoke to Infantino, who was there, and then Infantino today had a quote about how we need to revisit promotion relegation in the United
it's basically
States.
Like it's a necessary thing, or like he made a comment about it. And Eric Ronaldo was there with Ricardo Silva. It makes you wonder if maybe there was a word.
But doesn't that suggest that could be happening, that he could be the next president because he's got the ear of Infantino here? But not that Infantino can influence the election.
That's not my
maybe
that's
he
not my
thinks
concern.
He's in the running.
But my concern is more so that it seems like yes, but at the same time, the two names that we've now seen linked with him from a financial standpoint are like two prominent features in NASL who benefit directly from promotion relegation. It just
so you're saying that could split the vote in terms of like we're
no, it's more so
NASL
why I have questions about Eric Ronaldo. That's basically it. It's like, and that's what I was trying to get at is that like I really like Eric Ronaldo. I like a lot of what he said, but I still have question marks about like. I mean, who was Richard Farley had the tweet of like, it's interesting that we don't have questions about the fact that one of the candidates is being bankrolled by two guys who are suing U.S. soccer. Like, there are some question marks out there that I feel like it would be sort of disingenuous of me to criticize Kathy Carter and Carlos Cordero and not mention the fact that Eric Ronaldo has some question marks of his own.
It's not necessarily about criticizing. It's more about like I think any of these candidates could win it. Like I don't realistically think Hope Solo can win it, for example, but I do think realistically it's possible that Eric Ronaldo could win it.
No, I'm with you,
and it would shake things up.
That's definitely true. I mean, and I guess that would bring about some optimism, but I think really at the end of it, it's something you already hit upon, is that the people that if Tab Ramos took over, you look the names you listed. That's the reason for optimism for the future. Is that I do think you're going to see a lot of those young players start to get more consistent minutes with the U.S. national team in whatever competition that might be. Yeah. And I think that's the thing to give you optimism for 2018 is that, we didn't make it, but we've got a lot of youngsters who are going to make sure we make it in 2022.
Okay, I've got a couple more for you.
Sure.
I predict that in 2018, the U.S. will win the World Cup on June 13th.
Okay.
They will win the World Cup bid, the World Cup 2026 bid, the US, Canada and Mexico. I think that's when the final decision is. I think their bid will be approved, and just before the World Cup kicks off, the US, Canada and Mexico will be announced as the hosts of the 2026 World Cup.
I think
that's
you're right.
not a brave prediction because that's kind of the timeline and we expect it to happen, right? Unless Morocco really pulls something out of their hat and like, we had these 20 stadia that we didn't tell you about.
Well, the only one that I got asked about a fair amount over the holiday was, is there a chance...
by non-soccer people?
By non-soccer people, but people with a lot of interest in foreign policy. Questions about what happens if FIFA has to take the World Cup away from Qatar. And then do they give it to the United States? And if so, what happens to that 2026 bid? And I don't know the answer to that. So we shall see what happens.
I would prefer the US have to qualify for the 2022 World Cup.
I think I would too.
Yeah, right?
I think I definitely would.
Just to prove we can do it. Okay, how about this for a prediction? The UEFA Nations League will follow a similar critical path to Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Okay.
Which is some people will love it and some people will hate it.
Okay.
But, this is where it gets specific, by the time of the FIFA Council meeting in late October, which is after, I think, the group stage or the first couple rounds of the UEFA Nations League, FIFA will announce concrete plans for a global Nations League. This thing has been rumoured, right, that FIFA see the UEFA Nations League happening, which is where UEFA teams, instead of friendlies, playing like a league system, promotion relegation against each other. CONCACAF have announced they're doing the same, starting in September 2018. FIFA seem to be like, whoa, all this is slipping out of our control. We need to globalise this thing and sort of take hold of it. I think you'll see FIFA move fast to try and say, yeah, that was all good as a warm-up. Let's do a global thing.
That makes sense, too, because you do have, a lot of those countries being like, wait, we need people to compete against, and we need to be able to schedule friendlies, and we don't want to just play the same people
so the
over
African
and over
Federation,
again.
Asian Federation, South American Federation, Oceania, I guess, need teams to play against. So they're all going to be in favour of a global Nations League, as opposed to letting sort of UEFA and CONCACAF have their own separate thing.
It feels like it's going to be a little bit like what we... sort of like a hybrid of our promotion relegation plans. If you haven't listened to that show, go listen to that. But I feel like it will be like the top tier, like they won't have to worry so much about budget. They can travel all over the planet. Then the further down that table you go, the more it's like, okay, hyper-regional competitions to make sure you guys get bunch of games.
St. Kitts and Nevis aren't going to make the top league, right?
Yeah, but nor do I think that if you went by like FIFA ranking, I don't think that St. Kitts has the budget to fly to the Maldives and then to Sri Lanka or wherever they might be playing, like based on the teams that are in their 15-team range.
I don't think Sri Lanka make the top tier either, unless it's cricket.
but you see what I'm saying, though? That I don't think they can afford that. So I think it'll have to be like regional until like maybe the top two levels. That's where it's anybody from around the world.
That makes perfect sense to me. And FIFA will like that because they'll be in control of the top level as well, right? You have to get promoted out of UEFA and into FIFA. That's really interesting. So anyway, that was more in there as a reminder of this thing is coming in 2018. And for the record, again, I am 100% in favour of it because it's better than friendlies. And it'll benefit the US to have these competitive games and be trying to get themselves promoted to the top level if that FIFA World League happens.
All right.
Yeah. All right, next prediction. Neither Zlatan nor Wayne Rooney will go to the World Cup.
All right.
There'll be rumours to the contrary, sort of around about February, March, April, May. Neither of them will go because they won't answer the call, even if the media wants them to. Coaches will be too smart to select them.
I think that's a safe bet. I also think it's part of the reason. Like Wayne Rooney has been playing very, very well for Everton. Like we both like Wayne Rooney, but I do also think that he's sort of a distraction when it comes to England.
That's the problem.
And I think if
same for Zlatan.
That's what I kept thinking back to with like thinking about England and what they might do at the World Cup is. Think about Euro 2016, and it was sort of like you're going to be playing probably a 4-2-3-1 or some formation that has one striker. Is it Rooney? Is it Kane? Is it Vardy? If you've got to get three of them on the field at the same time, how do you do that?
Couldn't squeeze Dele Alli in very often.
It becomes a problem. And so I think he probably doesn't get caught up for that reason, but he maybe gets one or two more games as like a testimonial sort of reminder that he's very good. And
maybe.
Reminder
that he's very good.
I also wonder... My initial prediction was going to be something about an MLS club will successfully make a Hail Mary offer for Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I'm now more inclined to think...
He's like, no, how's Zlatan?
Yes. I think there's a chance he retires at the end of this season. I think. Because he doesn't strike me as a player who's going to keep going all around. Like, he doesn't have that Drogba just drive, it seems like, to experience different things and play here and play there and try that and why not this?
And experience the dry heat of Phoenix.
Yeah. But like, but Phoenix and China and Turkey and then... Canada, like he's been like
I forgot Drogba went to China.
He's kind of had that like the journey around the world, just trying to see what's out there. It feels like that doesn't seem like Zlatan. Zlatan wants to be the champion. He wants to be remembered. He doesn't want to have those brief stints with random clubs. And so I feel like maybe there's a chance that, especially since his return has not gone so well so far.
Oh, you'd say that? All right.
Yeah, maybe a bit. I do wonder. Maybe he'll try to play for one more year to fight it out to prove that like I'm the best and retire with some sort of silverware. But I also wouldn't be so surprised if he retired after the end of this year.
Okay, that's an interesting one. End of the season? You mean like this summer, basically?
End of this season, yeah.
Any more predictions before we get on to New Year's resolutions?
No, I don't think so. I think that's about it for me.
So, our New Year's resolutions to come. But first, we have an ad for Howler Magazine.
Yeah, we do.
Howler Magazine, the winter issue is coming. Winter is coming. I can't believe Howler haven't used that promo tag. It is an eye-catching issue. We've had a sort of a sneak peek at it. It hasn't been shipped yet. We've had a sneak peek at it. Did you get a look at the front cover?
I did indeed.
It's essentially a nuclear explosion within someone's eye.
Yep.
About the US failing to qualify for the World Cup. So we're going to do a couple of Howler ads at least. We've got the best discount code you can possibly get for a Howler subscription. But I think we want to save that World Cup. It's a Jeff Rutter story, how we didn't qualify for the World Cup story till later. Should we start with something more positive?
I think we probably should.
We both read Weston McKennie Has a Plan. Weston McKennie Has a Plan by Brian Blickenstaff, which is in the new issue of Howler magazine. So it's essentially Brian Blickenstaff is a US writer based in Germany, goes to visit Weston McKennie and chats to him about his career. And so he describes him as, I wrote this down because I liked it, broad-shouldered, baby-faced midfielder.
It's a very good description for Weston.
It's a great description. I found this really interesting because there's a lot of good little details in there about how Weston McKennie became Weston McKennie, if that makes sense.
Yes, I agree with that. I found it fascinating because I think he got to spend time with Weston McKennie before Weston McKennie really blows up to the point where everybody knows him. And I think that if he were like slightly more well known on the international stage, you probably don't get this access, or certainly not in the way, because this one is him like playing video games with Nick Tatagui and like eating lunch meat at the table. Like, it's just random moments that I think otherwise it would be a very polished, like, look at my lovely apartment, look at this thing that I'm working on. Like, it would be much more
it wasn't
PR spin savvy sort of thing.
It wasn't like Weston McKennie's people being like, hey, he's got 20 minutes for you.
Exactly.
Ask you questions and get out.
Exactly.
It was more like, let's go play FIFA at Nick Tatagui's house.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a chat. So I want to sort of talk, I don't want to like rehash the whole article because I want people to read it, right? Subscribe to Howler, read this story. But maybe let's just pick a couple of highlights out of it.
I mean, him talking smack prior to the FIFA game was pretty good.
That was just a reminder that he was a teenager, right?
Sort of, but it's also like, it's just that like swagger confidence that you would expect. And then he backed it up by winning, so that's good.
The thing that struck me was hearing about sort of McKennie just going over to Tatagui's apartment. It kind of sounds like he just wandered in and said, hey, kind of like Friends, right? So
we think
they're living their own version of Friends, but
the door's never locked. There's
Germany.
always food in the fridge.
But also, we hear about the Schalke-Dortmund rivalry. You forget that they're essentially in the same town, right? Which means Christian Pulisic lives nearby.
They say he lives, minutes away, I think?
Yeah, which means that McKennie...
And they see each other all the time.
And Tatagui, who you will hear about in the near future, by the way, and Pulisic are all essentially growing up really tight in this town in Germany, which means the future of the US team is this sort of group of friends who have like had their teenage years together in Germany. So I find that really exciting to just think of it that way.
If we're extending the Friends analogy of like the 6 main friends, does that mean Haji Wright is like the 7th friend who got transferred to Connecticut for work and then he missed out on all of the shenanigans?
Haji Wright is Phoebe. Isn't it like early on Phoebe doesn't live with them? She just kind of comes.
Oh
and visits.
That's right. That's right. Well, nor does Ross, and then eventually Ross lives across the street. I think I don't know. They all get closer and closer together.
It's all actually in Los Angeles.
Yes. Well, there's that too.
But I really just had that realization that these kids are all in the same place and they're going to be the future. So that's exciting. And there's another thing that I don't want to describe it in too much detail because I think people should read it. But there's essentially an explanation of how at the Schalke U19s they took what was essentially an attacking midfielder and turned him into a defensive midfielder by having him do a drill again and again and again until he figured it out. And basically, as soon as he figured it out, they were like, you got it. After the first team, you go.
There you go, man.
I'm sure it wasn't quite that simple, but it's a reminder of how sort of setting targets in coaching can really improve players and take them to the next level. The next level being literally first-team football in the Bundesliga.
But it's also a good reminder about like having faith that once they execute that, I do think that given how much money's in the game, the pressure to win or pressure to finish top 4 or whatever, it would be easy to like, okay, you've mastered that. Here's the other 2 things we want you to master. Oh, you've done, well, here's another, like, you can just keep pushing it off until he's the perfect player, and that day may never come. So it is a good reminder to like get them to master something, reward them for it, see how it goes. Thus far, it's gone well.
Win the 2026 World Cup. Also, I won't reveal this as well, but you find out who Weston McKennie's role model is.
Oh, yeah. That was surprising.
Yeah, that was.
I'll leave it at that.
But also not when you think about it.
But also not when you think about it, yes.
So the story is Weston McKennie Has a Plan by Brian Blickenstaff. It's in the winter issue of Howler magazine. And if you want to subscribe to Howler, if you subscribe now, you'll get the winter issue in January. Use the discount code TSS14, TSS14, you will get 20% off the subscription, free shipping, or that includes shipping at least, 20% off the subscription. It'll be $44 total. You will get the next issue in January, and you'll read Weston McKennie Has a Plan and the many, many other things that are in Howler Magazine.
Alrighty. I like it. Thank you to Howler Magazine. Yeah. I very much enjoyed that article.
Link will be in the show notes.
There we go. So what do we leave with? Promising personal resolutions?
New Year's resolutions,
All right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What you got to say that?
All right.
I talked a lot about McKennie, so you got to do your resolutions first.
All right. I'm going to go for a personal one rather than a show. And I'm going to say I'm going to try to watch more games in public. Like, I'm going to try to go out and watch more games because I think sometimes with a show and with our hectic schedules, we're both pretty busy.
Yeah.
It tends to be we watch games in here, we watch games at home, and it becomes far less of a social thing because I treat it as work. And if I'm watching a game out at a bar, then that means I'm probably not paying as much attention to it. So then I got to go back and rewatch it or talk with you about it. We end up rewatching it again.
Yeah.
And I think that's good for us. It gives us better content. But it's also good to remember that, like, the point of soccer is to be around community and talk to people. I'm probably not going to be, like, inviting 15 people to go watch a game at this same place every single time, but, like, go to this restaurant where they show soccer and have a beer and watch a game. I'm going to try to do a little bit more of that.
Oh, interesting.
If for no other reason than because I feel like it will help me focus a little bit more rather than, like, oh, I'm at home, I'll watch that game, but I'll also do two other things.
Yeah.
Or
you are a multitasker, right?
Yeah.
You're the most multitasker that I know.
I don't know if that's a good thing, but I'll take it.
It can be.
It can be.
Depends if we're trying to record a review of that game or not.
I do increasingly, maybe this is an aging thing, apologies, gerontologists, but I do think that the older I get, the more I realize that while I might think I'm a good multitasker, no one is a good multitasker. If you're doing another thing when a person is talking to you, you are not 100% listening to that person no matter what.
So I firmly believe that about watching soccer. I either watch it or don't watch it because there are many, many times I've tried to do some work and watch a game, and I'm thinking, I'm getting two things done at once. And at the end of the 90 minutes plus half time, which is nearly 2 hours, I've done almost no work. Right, I've got like a Word document with half a paragraph on it, and I've looked at the game and thought, what just happened?
No idea what happened.
Yeah, what happened there? So you may as well have like just done one of those things for 2 hours, right?
Yeah, but I think maybe what also factors into what I'm talking about is like the idea of just I want to watch a game and not be like, but what are they doing here? And what's the number 6 doing? And are they like, using two pivot? Yeah, I just want to be like, let's just enjoy soccer because that's what it's supposed to be.
Okay, one of my resolutions for 2018 is to go with what I was thinking after the US failed to qualify for the World Cup, and I started talking about how MLS needs to sort of just be a factory for quality young players, and watch more Real Salt Lake.
Okay.
Right? Just because Real Salt Lake has all these great young players like Justin Glad and so on. I could name all of them, but Justin Glad's the one that stands out to me right now. And really just watch Major League Soccer to watch the young players, right? So watch New York Red Bulls and watch Tyler Adams and all the other players coming through. Watch Real Salt Lake to watch Brooks Lennon, Justin Glad, all those guys. Watch FC Dallas for if Kelly Acosta, if he's still there, but if not, then the next generation like Paul Mikal et al. who are coming through, and just watch it for that reason.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not going to tune in and say, with all due respect to Portland fans, I'm not going to tune in and be like, I like watching Diego Valeri, let's watch this game, right? I'm more going to be sort of, who's Portland's youngster that I can watch? Is Farfan playing?
All right. I like that.
Yeah.
Farfan. Yeah.
Farfan. I always pronounce it incorrectly.
I don't know. I think I used to, and we got corrected on it, so there you go. Do you have one about guests for the show?
I do. Are you prompting me because you remember me saying that earlier?
Well, and also because I have something to go off of with that one, but it would kind of be like, I want to do this, and then this, and kind of steal that one. So you go ahead.
I just want to make sure to book more guests, because I feel like it always gets a really good reception when we book a guest. I think because we normally go a pretty deep, good conversation. I think we always get good guests because we don't just book famous people because they've got a famous name. We get people who we think have something interesting to say. But I still feel like we could do more of that. Because I've got a list of people that I would love to talk to. I just sort of haven't got around to sending them the email or the DM and making it happen. So 2018, make it happen. Yeah.
I feel like this is becoming the like personal info about Taylor segment, but I think I also don't. I tend to go to like the same sources or the same sites for information. I think you tend to do a better job of reading a diverse variety of things.
I feel like I go to the same sites as well. I feel like everybody feels they do that.
Yeah. Well, and so I guess, and I'm fully aware that I may firmly regret this, but I would welcome people, TBRock00, I think is my Twitter account, my personal one. I would welcome people to send me interesting stuff that they've read, not necessarily about like, did you see this thing about Weston McKennie, or did you see Pulisic doing keepy ups?
Or McKennie.
But like, yeah. But just like different stuff. I mean, I'm interested in soccer around the world. Random team here did this random thing, or like about how this club got to this point. Like, I would welcome people sending me more informational things to maybe then book that writer or person on as a guest.
My final personal resolution, go swimming more.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I hate swimming.
Well, you're not coming. Well, honestly, my plan is to go on the way to the studio or after the studio, but it always ends up that I'm making sure I can do as much research as possible, and it goes up to the last minute. I'm like, I haven't got time now. And then we get in here and we do the show, and I think, we'll be out of here by 4 o'clock, and we're out of here by 6 o'clock. And suddenly there's not time to swim.
You know what Weston McKinney would say?
What would he say?
You're making a plan B.
Well, no, honestly, Plan A is the Total Soccer Show.
There you go.
Plan A is the Total Soccer Show, and that's why there isn't time for swimming. I'm going to try and find time somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll allow that.
So if I don't turn up on like Wednesdays and Thursdays for the show, you can find me at the pool.
And since you're going healthy, mine is eat more hamburgers.
Yeah, there you go. You can stay here and eat hamburgers.
All right, well, so those are our predictions and our resolutions. We'll see how good of a job we do carrying them out.
Our weirdly specific resolutions.
A little bit. I'm going to eat more blue cheese hamburgers.
Oh,
now it's even more specific. I'm not going to do that.
Lamb
Lamb burgers in the office. You're welcome. You are welcome.
Garlic paste. I'm going to eat garlic paste.
I regret everything.
Let's close today's show with a Total Soccer Show Scouting Network update. There's a lot here because it's been, a week or so since we did a show. Mm-hmm. All right? I don't even know which side of the paper we're starting.
We're going to start out with Alex Forbes scouting Reginald Reggie Cannon, 19-year-old American right back for FC Dallas.
I was talking about the MLS youngsters here. Okay.
You certainly were.
Yes.
After making his professional debut for FC Dallas in June, Cannon was unable to secure any more playing time for the rest of the season. That seems likely to change next year as Dallas declined to renew starting right back Hernan Grana's loan contract. Daryl's now running around the office celebrating and have not yet signed any other right backs. Daryl is now back in his seat, ceasing celebrations.
So, I'm sure Hernan Grana's a nice guy.
Meh.
But every time I watched him play for FC Dallas, I was not impressed.
Correct.
Right? Especially in that game against Pachuca, for example.
I want to pause here to say that is not hyperbole. Literally every time we watched FC Dallas, there was a point where Daryl Grove would say, "Why is he still starting?"
Yeah,
that is not that is not a joke.
I don't have a huge sample size, right? But it is every time.
It was a good 10 games, I would say.
But what really got me was that knowing that Reggie Cannon, right back, was a homegrown player and was available for action, right? And I can't imagine, especially with Dallas not doing that well. And not really in a playoff contention. I can't imagine how it could have been worse to start this 19-year-old American right back than to keep going with Grana.
Yeah,
right.
No arguments here.
It drove me mad, and then it drove me mad about how people would talk about how FC Dallas have this great thing of bringing youth through. They really didn't and don't. They just have this great thing of signing players to homegrown player contracts and then not playing them.
Yep. So here we are.
Yeah. So 2018 can be the year of Reggie Cannon.
How do you really feel about this, though, Daryl? Any emotions?
Well, sorry, let me say one more thing. The reason I'm so focused on Reggie Cannon is because I had a conversation with Matt Doyle, recorded on the show. We haven't talked to Matt for a while, actually.
We've not.
Maybe 2 years ago. He was talking about how the problem with the US fullback pool is that we end up just converting so many, not first-choice midfielders end up being converted to fullbacks. Yeah. But he said there's a new generation of players coming through that teams have identified as fullbacks early on and said, you are a fullback, we are going to play you. And Reggie Cannon was the first name that he mentioned. So I've been waiting for the Reggie Cannon revolution for about 2 years. And Grana has been in the way.
Is that New England's first name? The Reggie Cannon Revolution? I like it.
It's not.
Next report.
Sorry. Calm myself down. Mark Godberg is scouting Patrick Schick, the 21-year-old Czech forward for Roma. Schick's move to Juventus was dashed by a heart issue, so he signed for Roma in the summer instead. He has since overcome his injury to make a few appearances, but no goals or assists yet. Patrick Schick was touted as a big name to watch.
This was basically Mark Gardberg's way of referencing the Czech Republic, so then he could talk about Thomas Rosicky, so then he could ask if we thought Christian Pulisic would sign for Arsenal. Basically, it was a roundabout way, so we've edited it down.
Did Rosicky just retire?
Yes.
Is that the thing that I read? Okay, yeah.
You are correct.
Pulisic at Arsenal would be interesting. Especially if Alexis Sanchez is on the move.
Yeah.
That's a place where he could start.
Well, we just don't know how long Wenger's going to be there. That's kind of the question mark. Jeff and Sam Huffman scouting Mukwele Akele, 20-year-old American attacker for Villarreal C. We have a poem, the first of 2 poems today, as well as a more in-depth report.
Okay.
Our guy Mukwele plays for Villarreal C. Consecutive starts, he now has 3. Today he earned his dinner. He scored the game winner. Only the Spanish 4th Division, still good enough for me.
Love it. It's a nice short poem.
And the way of explaining that, Mukwele started and scored the game winner in the 29th minute in a 1-0 win over CD Almazora on Wednesday after starting in a 1-1 draw versus Paterna on the weekend. Today marked his 4th straight appearance for the team since his return from injury. He showed excellent speed and ball control throughout, and he nearly chipped the keeper from distance for a second goal. Go on, Mukwele.
Good enough for me. Brandon Colvin is scouting Brahim Diaz, the 18-year-old Spanish left winger from Manchester City. Brandon says that Diaz made his first career start for City's senior team in their Carabao Cup clash with Leicester City, but was relatively quiet in his 87 minutes on the pitch. Diaz's typically incisive dribbling was mostly absent against Leicester. With Ilkay Gundogan, Bernardo Silva and Gabriel Jesus dominating the attack, he was essentially tasked with providing spacing and defensive pressure on the left flank. If anything, Diaz's performance indicates he can perform a less flashy role in Guardiola's system when needed, a fact that might bolster his chances of earning more regular minutes at City. Unfortunately, his sort of contemporary, Phil Foden, has an ankle ligament injury.
So, but that just means more youngsters can get minutes.
It does, but more youngsters who aren't Phil Foden.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
Patrick Doss scouting Jonas Kübler, 18-year-old German defensive midfielder for Schalke. Jonas is a hardworking central defensive midfielder, playing and captaining Schalke's U19s in all of their Junioren Bundesliga West matches this season.
It's actually Junioren.
There you go. He's tallied only one goal so far, but hasn't had the opportunity to add to that as the last two games have been postponed, likely due to winter in the North Rhine-Westphalia and all the snow that comes with it.
Joey Morang is scouting Ethan Ampadu, the 17-year-old Welsh centre-back / centre-mid for Chelsea. Joey says Ethan made his Premier League debut, coming on as a sub in the 3-1 win over Huddersfield. He then started in a 2-1 win over Bournemouth in the Carabao Cup. He injured Jermaine Defoe 2 minutes into that match, but still managed to finish as the man of the match for Chelsea. Solid all-round game and 99% pass accuracy.
17. Not bad.
Yeah.
Brendan Masser is scouting Marlon Fossey, 19-year-old American right back for Fulham. Fossey has returned to training after 8 months due to a groin injury, which originally forced him to withdraw from the U20 World Cup. Once fit, he will be looking to regain his starting spot in Fulham's Premier League 2 side.
Gillian Avalon is scouting Jack Storer and Ronan Hale, the 19 and 17-year-olds from Birmingham City. Gillian says Baby Ronan continues to earn minutes in the U23s, but Baby Jack's future is more uncertain. After his recent short-term loan to Gloucester in November, he is back out on a short-term loan. This one is to Vanarama National League side Solihull Moors, that's near where I'm from, close to home and closer to the Blues in stature, but still not that close. If he hasn't got into gear soon, Baby Ronan will sail past him into the senior team as Baby Jack's youth passes him by. Wow, Julian.
Yeah.
that got metaphysical.
A little bit. Richie Garcia scouting Emerson Hyman, 21-year-old American midfielder for Bournemouth. Richie wrote us a lovely Christmas-themed rhyming story, which is too long to read here. But the gist is that Hyman was an unused substitute in Bournemouth's loss to Manchester City. On Boxing Day, Hyman was once again in the 18, but not used in a 3-3 draw with West Ham. Richie is very much hoping for a loan move in January, as any playing time is better than sitting on the bench.
Wasn't one of the lines of Richie's poem was like dashing Daryl's prediction or hopes that Hyndman was going to be the future?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking back at this. I was thinking about Emerson Hyndman.
Again, that's been like 6 or 7 different players have been the future. Worth noting.
One of them will be. Hyndman has been injured in pre-season for the last 2 seasons.
Eesh.
That's what's basically ruining his season. So this is him slowly coming back from that.
So maybe just don't do anything until the season starts is what we've learned. And then you'll never be injured.
Take the summers off.
Perfect plan.
Tyler Franzen is scouting Owen Artasori, the 16-year-old American midfielder at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Tyler says Artasori was called up to the US U18 camp in November after making regular appearances for Wolves U18s. Update on that from me, he was just called up to the 153-player US youth camp. Do you see this? US Soccer just announced this. There's like U16, 17, 18, 19 and 20s have all been called up, 153 players total, for a gigantic January training camp. You're smiling at me like this is going to be in a future scouting report.
It is. Several, in fact. Craig Turner scouting
background info.
Scouting Joe Gomez. I just appreciate the have you seen this and then not waiting for me to say, yes, it's in the next scouting reports. Well, not this one, but
it's a rhetorical
still to come.
Have you seen this?
I see. Craig Turner scouting Joe Gomez, 20-year-old English defender for Liverpool. Joe Gomez was at fault for an Alexis Sanchez goal in Liverpool's 3-3 draw at Arsenal.
Sure was. I saw this.
Gomez failed to attack a cross in the box, and Sanchez cut in front and headed it in. Gomez has been playing well for Liverpool in their back four, but this mistake definitely is a setback for him. Meanwhile, folks in the know think Klopp is playing Gomez at right back so he can get Premier League experience, then move to center back next season. In theory, that means next year Nathaniel Klein and Trent Alexander-Arnold will be the right backs for Liverpool, while Moreno and Robertson will play left back. This will allow Gomez to play more center back and hopefully be paired with a big signing yet to be named. That report was sent on December 27th.
I've been wondering this. Who will be Liverpool's starting centre-backs?
Craig would say Joe Gomez.
Not this year, though, right?
No, I guess next year, yeah.
So Lovren or Matip or Klavan?
Maybe Lovren, and then he'll think he's back playing for Southampton, and then he'll regain that form.
Did they ever play? No, I think Van Dijk replaced Lovren, actually, so they never played together.
I'm just saying, when 3 of your back 4 are from Southampton, maybe that's where you think you're from, and it all works out.
Todd Ito is scouting Takafusa Kubo, the 16-year-old Japanese attacking midfielder at FC Tokyo. Todd says Kubo was left off the Japanese U21 team for next month's Asian Federation U23 Championship. Even though it's a U23 tournament, Japanese manager Hajime Moriyasu wanted to name a U21 team to help build for the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. That was going to be my question. Such is the excitement about Kubo that Moriyasu specifically discussed leaving him off the team, saying he did not want to wear him out after he already played in both the U17 and U20 World Cups and made his J League debut this year.
It's been a busy year.
Good 2017 for
I'd
Kubo.
say so.
Yeah.
Shreyas Romani scouting Dan Axel Zagadou, 18-year-old French defender for Borussia Dortmund. Zagadou hasn't played since his role in Dortmund's collapse against Schalke, and the general consensus, to be fair, it was only 2 games, and the general consensus is that fans want to see him given more minutes at centre back as opposed to out wide. No word yet on how Peter Stoger plans to use him.
He was used as a left wing back in that game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No. Sam Nelson is scouting Ulises Yanez, the 16-year-old American forward for the LA Galaxy. Ulysses was called into the U18 national team for the Men's Youth National Team Summit Camp. Is that what it's called? From January 2nd to 11th, which brings together 153 players. Have you heard this, Taylor? On 5 teams from U16 to U20. In March, the Galaxy will be hosting the LA Galaxy Cup, which will feature the academies of Man United, Club Tijuana, Swansea City FC, FC Porto, and Sporting KC. Hopefully, Ulysses can put on a show and perhaps gain a move abroad one day.
Matt Compton scouting Juan Pablo Torres, 18-year-old American midfielder at Sporting Lokeren. Juan Pablo Torres continues to make the matchday squad for Sporting Lokeren in the Belgian Pro League, but with his club sitting at 11th in the table, minutes have been somewhat hard to come by. Thankfully, JPT has been called into the U.S. Soccer's first ever Men's Youth National Team Summit.
What is that?
It's 153 players called in for various youth national teams. I think it's from January 2nd to January 11th. I could be wrong.
All right.
Maybe we should say it one more time. He'll compete in midfield for the U20 team alongside names like Andrew Carlton, Chris Goslin, Chris Durkin, and Paxton Pomacale.
So that's the interesting part here is the U20 team in this summit is mostly U17s. It's like the cream of the U17 crop straight into that U20 team.
You don't really have cream from a crop.
Is that right? That's
do
the
you?
saying.
I mean, you don't have like a crop of milk, do you?
But isn't that the saying?
It definitely is, but I'm realizing that saying doesn't make sense to me.
All right.
Is it like cream corn? Like the best corn makes cream corn?
I absolutely have no idea.
Well, that's fair. Maybe we should just read the final scouting report.
Yeah, okay. Final report is from Taylor
Williams. What happens
Williams.
in the show is an hour and 15 minutes long.
Scouting Matt Olasunde, the 19-year-old American right-back for Manchester United. Taylor says, after returning from injury, Matt Olasunde has been called up to train with the first team with a handful of other U23 players.
2 things there. Very exciting for him because we finally are getting updates about the player.
Yeah.
Not criticizing Taylor, but just saying very exciting that we're starting to see him kind of rise through the ranks a little bit.
Yeah.
Also worth noting, I feel like I've already gotten tweets. It's because in milk, there's always that little layer of cream at the top, so the cream rises to the top. There it is. That's where it comes from.
But what
cream
about the
of
crop part?
I still don't know. I don't know why that's the case. But I know people are going to say, it's because cream is at the top.
That's why Paxton Pomacale is in the U20 team.
There we are.
So thank you to everybody who sent scouting reports today.
Good choice.
Thank you to everybody who supported us in 2017. It has been a wonderful year for the Total Soccer Show. We're going strong. We plan to go even stronger in 2018, especially when that World Cup rolls around. We plan to give you the very best possible coverage of the 2018 World Cup. Okay, I'm going to go big here and say the most comprehensive coverage on the planet.
I'd say so.
There'll be no other podcast where every host watches every game and previews and reviews every game.
I mean, there'll be podcasts where they watch every single game. I don't know.
Between them.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Right?
That's probably true.
Yes, there you go.
Who needs sleep? Who needs sleep?
I'm looking forward to the summer.
As am I.
I'm looking forward to the summer. Thank you to everybody who supported us in 2017. If you'd like to support us in 2018, go to TotalSoccerShow.com/join. You can join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network and support the show. If you subscribe at $10 a month or higher, we guarantee to answer one listener question per month on the show.
Yeah, we do.
So, Taylor, we're going to take off the weekend at least for New Year's.
Yep.
Back in the office January 2nd/3rd.
You got it.
You got it. 2nd or 3rd?
Second.
Okay, back in the office January 2nd.
We'll see.
There'll be all kinds of Premier League action to review. There's, I think, 2 match weeks, essentially, spread over 4 or 5 days.
I'm going to watch all of them in bars.
Those poor Premier League players.
I'm not going to do that.
Everybody, thank you for listening. Taylor, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Hope you had a happy holidays. Hope you're continuing to. Have a safe and happy New Year. Don't overpay for an expensive ticket because it's who you're with, not where you are.